The doctors arrived within seconds, though to Lena it felt like minutes stretched thin by disbelief. Orders were spoken quickly, clipped and careful, but she barely registered them. Her eyes stayed on Ethan's face, on the faint tension in his jaw. The slight movement beneath his skin that confirmed what she had seen was real. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't fatigue. This was life pushing back. She stepped aside as instructed. Hands clasped together so tightly, her knuckles burned. Watching professionals do what they had done countless times before, except this time. The outcome was uncertain, in a way that leaned toward hope instead of loss. One doctor shone a light into Ethan's eyes. Another called out numbers. Someone murmured, "That's not reflexive." Lena's chest tightened. Not reflexive meant intention, awareness, somewhere deep inside him. Ethan Blackwood was fighting his way back. When the room finally settled, when the urgency softened into cautious monitoring, Lena was asked to stay. Not officially. No one said it out loud, but no one told her to leave either. She stood near the bed as the machines resumed their steady rhythm, now sounding less like metronomes of maintenance, and more like witnesses to something fragile and new. Ethan's eyelids fluttered again, then stilled. He did not wake, not yet, but the difference lingered in the air, undeniable. Lena leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. "You did good," she whispered, as if encouraging a child who had taken their first step. "You don't have to rush." Her words felt foolish the moment they left her mouth, but she didn't take them back. She never had. The days that followed were different in ways no chart could quantify. Ethan's responses were inconsistent but unmistakable. A squeeze of the fingers, a shift of the head when Lena spoke. Once, when she stopped talking mid-sentence to check a monitor, his heart rate spiked, settling only when she resumed. The doctors noticed. They pretended not to at first. Medicine didn't like stories. It liked data, but data accumulated whether they wanted it to or not. Lena became part of his care plan, without ever being formally written into it. She talked while she worked. She explained what she was doing before she did it. She told him the date, the time, the weather, grounding him in a world he had been absent from for too long. She told him he was safe. She told him he wasn't alone. At night, when the hospital quieted and the hum of electricity replaced human voices, Lena sometimes sat beside him longer than necessary. She told him about her childhood, about growing up in a house where love was loud but money was scarce. She told him about her father leaving, about her mother working double shifts and still finding time to braid her hair before school. She didn't know why these things came out now. Maybe because Ethan couldn't interrupt. Maybe because he had already seen her at her most human, tired, hopeful, afraid. She wondered. Occasionally, if he would think differently of her if he woke up fully, if he would see her as just another employee. The thought stung more than she expected. One evening, as she finished adjusting his blankets, Ethan's hand closed around her wrist. Not tightly, not aggressively, just enough to stop her. Lena froze, her breath catching, eyes snapping to his face. His eyes remained closed, but his grip was steady, intentional. Her pulse roared in her ears. "I'm here," she said softly, placing her other hand over his. "You don't have to hold on." His fingers loosened slowly, reluctantly, as if letting go cost him something. Lena stepped back, heart racing, tears blurring her vision. She pressed her palm to her chest, grounding herself in the reality of what was happening. This wasn't just recovery. This was connection. By the end of the week, the word miracle began to circulate in whispers. Administrators avoided it. Doctors resisted it. Lena never said it out loud at all. She didn't need to. She saw the truth every time she entered the room and felt it change around her. Ethan Blackwood was still unconscious, still fragile, still suspended between worlds, but he was no longer lost. And Lena, a young nurse who had only ever wanted to help people feel less alone, had unknowingly become the one voice he followed back. When Ethan finally spoke her name clearly, weeks after opening his eyes, it felt more unreal to Lena than the moment he woke. "Lee-la!" It came out rough, broken, but unmistakably meant for her. She was adjusting his pillow when she heard it and nearly dropped it, her heart lurching so hard she had to sit down before her legs gave out. She smiled through tears, nodding slowly. afraid that moving too fast would break the moment. "I'm here," she said, the words carrying a weight they never had before. He studied her face as if memorizing it, as if afraid she might disappear if he looked away. Later, when speech therapy sessions became routine and his strength returned piece by fragile piece, he told her the truth that stunned every doctor who heard it. He hadn't been empty during those years. He had been trapped, aware, drowning in darkness, unable to move, unable to scream, except when she spoke. Her voice, he said, had been the one constant, the one proof that the world still existed. "You talked to me like I mattered," he told her one night, his voice steadier now. "That's what pulled me back. The media eventually found out. They always did. Headlines exploded with words like miracle, awakening, billionaire reborn. Cameras waited outside the hospital gates. Executives and distant relatives suddenly remembered his name. Ethan refused to see them at first. Power, he had learned, meant nothing when you couldn't lift your own hand. When he finally agreed to an interview months later, walking carefully but unaided, he said only one thing that mattered. He thanked a nurse, not the hospital, not the technology. A nurse who refused to treat a silent man like a lost cause. Lena watched the broadcast alone in her apartment, her hands trembling as she heard him say her name out loud for the world to hear. She turned off the television before the tears came. She didn't want recognition. She wanted meaning, and somehow she had both. Ethan kept his promise quietly. No grand gestures, no public announcements. He funded Lena's education anonymously, paid off her mother's medical debts without explanation, and established a foundation that focused on long-term coma care, on dignity, on patience, on the idea that presence could be as powerful as medicine. Lena only discovered the truth months later, when she confronted him during a follow-up visit. "You didn't have to do this," she said, overwhelmed. Ethan smiled gently. "I know," he replied. "That's why I did." There was something between them now that went beyond gratitude, beyond circumstance, a shared understanding born in silence and survival. They didn't rush it. Life, they both knew, was fragile, but it was also generous if you listened. Years later, when Lena stood in her white coat as a fully licensed physician, she spotted Ethan in the back row of the ceremony, standing instead of sitting, clapping louder than anyone else. Their eyes met, and in that moment, she understood the miracle hadn't been his awakening alone. It had been the way two lives, broken in different ways, had quietly saved each other. Not with wealth, not with power, but with presence, with kindness, with faith in someone who couldn't ask for it. If this story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that miracles don't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes they come with a soft voice that refuses to give up.